The word is sherry, Sherry. Sherry is a fortified wine which comes from the south of Spain in an area which is bounded by 3 small towns near the port city of Cadiz. And it's a very special wine because you can only call it sherry if it comes from that little area. And it was given what's called a denomination of origin certificate in 1933. So it's the first Spanish wine to have that particular kind of recognition. Well, sherry comes in a variety of looks and tastes, from very pale, very dry, very salty, very biting, to the sweet sherry that your aunt, anybody's aunt, probably has in their sideboard and takes out once a year at Christmas. The Harvey's Bristol Cream sweet sherry, the sort that we all grow up with and think, oh my God, we don't like this, it's too sweet, it's too sickly. And that puts everybody off sherry. And people don't realise that actually there are wonderful sherries which are much more fresh and bracing to the taste and which are drunk as everyday wines in that particular part of Spain. Well, in Spain and indeed anywhere else, you would normally have a glass of sherry before your meal as a way of stimulating your appetite. You would have it maybe with some almonds or a little bit of Spanish ham, or perhaps even a little bit of Spanish omelette. It's called sherry because sherry is an anglicisation of the name of one of the 3 towns which make up the region from which sherry comes, and this is Jerez de la Frontera. And Jerez actually was given that name in the 10th century when the Spanish reconquered that part of southern Spain. Before that, under Moorish rule, it was known as Xerish. And so you can see how Xerish in English, or Xerish, becomes sherry, and that's how it got its name in English. Of course, sherry became first known to English people at the very end, again, of the 16th century, when the famous pirate Francis Drake sacked the port of Cadiz in 1597. And when he raided the port and destroyed all the Spanish shipping that was there, which was a huge disaster for the Spaniards, he found 2,900 barrels of sherry ready for loading on the docks. So what did he do? Put them into his ship, took them back up home to England, and began to start a serious taste for drinking sherry wine. At that time it was known as sack, or sherris sack. And the word sack is a corruption of the Spanish word sacar, which is to describe the way in which the wine is taken out of the barrels in which the wine itself matures. It was a different wine at that point. These days it's a fortified wine, which means a little bit of brandy is added during the maturation process. And so it's actually quite a strong wine. It's 15 to 17% alcohol content, which is very high. But at the end of the 16th century, it was much lighter. It would be like quite a light table wine, maybe 10, 11, 12%, and much sweeter than a lot of the sherry that we would drink today. And it became very, very popular. In Spain, it's called Jerez, or Vino de Jerez, which is wine from Jerez. They're always mystified by the fact that sherry is not more appreciated in this country, and that people don't understand the varieties that are available, and in fact that people don't drink it properly either. You should drink it before a meal, not after a meal, and it's a serious, rather bracing wine. Not something that one should laugh at, confined to maiden aunties and sideboards. Francis Drake brought this big quantity of sherry to England in 1597, and Shakespeare wrote a play called Henry IV Part 2 about one of the kings of England, in which his very famous larger-than-life big fat man character Falstaff appears. And Falstaff actually speaks a speech which is that long, huge long speech, about the virtues of sherry. And he drinks gallons of the stuff, gallons of sack. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh my God, he must be on his ear after about 2 minutes. But then I realised that the sherry at that point, of course, was much lighter in terms of alcohol content than it is today. And at the end of this great long speech, Falstaff says, "If I had 1,000 sons, the first humane principle I would teach them should be to forswear thin potations and to addict themselves to sack." There are still some sherries that you can buy today which are sold under the label dry sack. So sack is recognised among people who know about sherry as a word that you can use for it.